Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, products, and the services as we move through the 21st century. And as we go to 2050, how we're going to be able to provide the technical expertise that's going to be needed to create the new technologies in ways that's going to address the planet with 9 billion people. And as we add 2 billion new people to the planet, we need to make sure that we provide the food, the fuel, the fiber, and all the basic infrastructure. And that's going to take a lot of people working at a great pace, being very creative, and to employ the power of universities, not only in the United States, but all around the globe. And so we have two people, one sitting with me in the studio and one that's coming in by Skype. Jean B. Burdick is the immediate past national president of an organization called the Advancement Rewards for College Scientists, ARCS is the acronym, Foundation Inc. And sitting right beside me is Lynn R. Dillon. She is the president of the Metropolitan Washington chapter of the same organization, ARCS. And this is something that's very exciting, Lynn. Thank you for introducing this through our Rotary Club, Washington, D.C. And Jean, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Dr. Sam, it's a pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you. Tell us a little bit about this organization, the Achievement Rewards for College Scientists, ARCS Foundation.
Yes, the ARCS Foundation has been around for over 50 years. We are focused on advancing science in America by supporting the best and brightest of American graduate and undergraduate students in STEM and making sure they complete their final degrees. We're a women's organization. We were founded in 1958 by a few women in Los Angeles who were extremely concerned about the Soviet Union's challenge to the United States' leadership in science when the Sputnik launch happened. And they began ARCS Foundation. It has since grown to 17 chapters in cities and states across the country. We are partnered with 54 of the best science and engineering universities in the United States. And we fund the best and brightest U.S. citizens completing their degrees in all manner of STEM fields. In this case, we're here tonight to talk about environmental studies, but we also, of course, support students in life sciences and IT and robotics, chemical engineering, material science, and so on.
Well, and also, too, we're focusing this particular program on females that are involved in scholarship, research, and the STEM areas, and I think that's very exciting what you're doing, provide these scholarships, and actually they're attending some of the very best universities, not only in the United States, but are recognized around the world. But tell us, who are some of these scholars, and what type of support that you provide for them, and how do you involve them to go into the STEM and major environmental research?
Well, as I said, the scholars cover all manner of fields of study. 92% of our scholars are graduate scholars. They're chosen by their universities as the best and brightest in their fields, and they go on to be lead researchers in their departments in academia, or they found companies. So they are the innovators. We are looking, you asked for a common thread. We are really looking for those U.S. students who have the potential for innovation, who have the potential for the most advanced research, because this is where we feel our competitive advantage as a nation lies, in being able to produce a generation, or in this case, multiple generations of young people who go on to lead this country's efforts in science and technology. One of our most notable graduates that you may have seen on television is Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's an ARC scholar, and we have others, many others of that ilk.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic, and it's true leadership that you're bringing about, and also to enhance entrepreneurship, sustainability, and resiliency. You know, these are all current terms that are going as we move towards 2050, so it's very important that we incorporate all that into their studies, and I know very well that you're doing it. Well, you know, Lynn is sitting right beside us, and she's going to ask the next question.
Certainly. Thank you. Jean, what has the ARCS Foundation done to fulfill its mission, advancing science in America?
Well, Lynn, as you know, we in the 56 years, I guess now it is, that we've been around, we have raised the women in ARCS Foundation, and it is, by the way, a women's organization. I'm not sure whether I said that or not. So it's women leading this effort. And we have provided over $92 million in support funds to more than 9,200 of America's best and brightest science and engineering scholars. This has been a fantastic effort and consistent over time in partnership with now 54 of the top universities in the country. This year alone, we've given over $4 million to 568 scholars across this country.
Absolutely. I was just going to add as well, the fact that we are an all-female, all-volunteer organization, all operating costs are covered by members. So for every dollar donated, it becomes a dollar in support of our scholars.
That's fantastic. That's good to know. Looking at how do you reach out and recruit, Jean, and bring in, and again, want to focus on the females that are coming into the organization to go in these outstanding universities. And I know you're providing the funds, but what else is important or critical to have more and more females to go into the STEM areas?
Well, one of the things that our scholars tell us, and probably close to half of our scholars are female, they are chosen by their universities, and they're chosen by their universities because they are the best in their fields. And what we find, though, once we have the ARC scholars, the cohort of ARC scholars, is that the funding is extremely important, as you say. But one of the things we hear over and over again is that they value the moral support, the emotional support, the networking that they receive from being part of the ARCS Foundation family. This happens on a regular basis, and it happens both to male and female. But I think that women scholars are sometimes, they can be in greater need for this kind of moral support, especially depending on their department. They may be in a minority in terms of a department or a program that is traditionally majority male, and they could use the extra support. So we provide that not only from the ARCS membership, but we network the scholars together so they get to know each other across universities.
And looking at it, you've addressed some of this, but what's some of the other things that makes ARC so successful over these many years? Because with the number of years you've been around, that's really a long history, and it's a very rich one. So what are some of the other things that you think that really makes your organization so successful?
Well, several things that are unique about us, Dr. Sam. We exercise very tight quality control. In order to become an ARCS affiliated university, you have to be approved by the University Relations Committee at the national board level at ARCS Foundation. And the universities submit an application, a very extensive application, to be considered as an ARCS Foundation school. Then every department and every program within that university has to apply to be affiliated. So we want to know, are you in fact ranked among the highest in your field? What's your faculty like? What's the size of your program? How many PhD students do you graduate? What are the publications that your faculty has on their record? What kind of national associations are they part of? So we vet those universities extensively. So that kind of tight quality control, and by the way, that has to be repeated every 5 years for every university and every department. So we keep a good handle on who's doing top-notch work, cutting-edge work in their fields across the country. So when they choose the students that they regard as highest quality, we can be fairly certain that those are the students most capable of innovation. The other thing that we do is, as Lynn referred to this is an all-volunteer organization. Our operating costs are very, very low. So we are very cost-effective in how we do this. This is women leading a private sector initiative, seeing a problem, seeing an issue, and deciding that we're going to tackle it and we're going to see to it that it gets done. And we've done it successfully. This mechanism and structure that we set up has been operating like clockwork for over 50 years. So it is very successful in what it does.
Well, and also, too, you mirror the accreditation for the universities and all the things that you list. I was on the accreditation reevaluation committee for SACS, which is the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, and everything you listed goes into the reaccreditation, and it's about the same period of time. So I applaud you for that, because you really are looking at quality, and it's the long-term quality of that. Lynn, you have the next question.
I do. Jean, the question is, looking to both scholar potential candidates as well as the general community, what advice might you have on how they can connect with ARCS?
Well, we are looking very closely, both at the chapter level and at the national level, to increase our partnerships. We want to expand the number of chapters beyond 17. So we're looking for universities and women's groups that would like to start a chapter in their community. We're looking at corporations who would like to sponsor an ARCS program. For example, we just initiated a partnership last year with the Roche Foundation, which is the philanthropic arm of Roche Pharmaceuticals. And they are funding a cohort of 36 scholars across the country. It's called the Roche ARCS Foundation Scholar Award Program in the life sciences in the United States. And they are creating this network of 36 scholars in life sciences that can be brought together, and they form the basis in the field of study that the company is interested in.
Jean, we're running out of time. 10 seconds. What do you see for the growth and the importance of ARCS over the next 5, 10, 15 years? You got to be quick. 10 seconds.
It's just going to get harder and harder and more important to fund these kinds of innovators. And you can reach us at national@arcsfoundation.org.
Okay, thank you for being with us. That's Jean V. Burdick of the ARCS Organization Foundation, and thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet. They cut her out too quick.
This is firstgov.gov, where we're obsessed with getting you government information.
Brand new student loan applications on the site, baby. This calls for a celebration. Where's your uncle?
So in the end, it was either take the astronaut gig or come work here. What can I say? Duty called.
Dude, that's my cop.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure that's Sam's cop.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No. Sam's. No.
Just log on or email us and get what you need.
C, change of address form. That's how it's done.
D, driver's license renewal. E, emailing Social Security information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice, we'll allow it. All right, Ed.
What are those? Government surplus cars for auction.
You posted those online last time.
No, you did.
I'm posting them online this time!
For all your government information, firstgov.gov.
Oh, what have we got here? Sometimes you feel tired. You can't seem to lose those extra pounds off your midsection. And your joints hurt when you take the stairs. Well, you're getting older. But I'm happy to say that there's some simple things we can do to keep you happy and healthy for years to come. We can also lower your risk for some serious diseases the older population is often subject to. Proper nutrition is more important than ever. Your body has changed, you know. Not as many treats. A basic exercise plan, lots of walks and fresh air, and most importantly, come and see me for twice-yearly checkups to help ensure the best possible quality of life. Now, how does that sound? Good boy.
Improve the quality of life for your elderly pet. Schedule twice-yearly checkups that include preventive care and regular lab work. a message from the veterinary members of the American Animal Hospital Association.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And we're looking at a planet that's going from 7 to 9 billion people and how we're going to be able to provide all the technology, the basic infrastructure, the education, healthcare, everything else that's going to be needed as we move through the 21st century. And so we need to focus the best to identify those scholars that are going to be the next generation as far as innovators, entrepreneurs, researchers, as well as coming up with the dynamics of new technologies and products that really are going to make the world a better place within which to live. And I have two of them sitting right beside me that are all part of this process. You can see the credits right behind us for that, but Erin Atkins is sitting right beside me, and Michelle Bailey. They are both ARCS, and they're going to say what that is in just a minute, scholars. And they're graduate students in chemistry at the Miller Research Group at the George Washington University in Washington, D.C. So Erin, Michelle, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Thanks for having us.
I'm glad to have you here. Erin, welcome, and tell us a little bit about the focus of your lab's research and why it's important that women become more and more involved in this advanced research and anything in the STEM areas.
So we work for the Miller Research Group, which is an applied laser spectroscopy lab, and currently our focuses are on combustion and atmospheric monitoring applications. And both of these have their motivations in environmental science. And so this is incredibly important because, as you know, climate change, most of that effect is related to the increase in anthropogenic emissions of greenhouse gases, such as carbon dioxide and methane, being the #1 and 2 sources. However, something that is less well known is that soot also plays an impact in climate change.
That's okay.
Yeah.
What is black soot, and how does it get out there? What's the importance as far as the impact on the environment, and what do we really need to know about it? Because this is something you hear a little bit about it, but not very much.
So black carbon or soot is formed from incomplete combustion, and so it's particulate matter formed of carbon that is strongly light absorbing. And so why this is incredibly important is because while greenhouse gases just absorb solar radiation, and that's where the warming effect comes from there, black carbon also not only absorbs solar radiation, but also you have interactions because it's black particulate. So when it lands on snow and glacier surfaces, you have melting of these surfaces from the change in the reflectivity, and then that causes it to melt, and then you also have warming effects from that.
Yeah, because what you're doing is actually it's warming that whole surface, and it's bringing in, trapping that heat that may be coming in, and also any sun. And many people don't think of at the solar caps or glaciers, you have a tremendous amount of sun at those elevations where these glaciers are located.
Exactly, and impacts like this and other ones are what cause black carbon, may be even a bigger source of global warming than methane. And so that's one of the things that's incredibly important because there's an atmospheric lifetime for black carbon is measured on the order of weeks, where carbon dioxide and methane are measured in hundreds and tens of years. And so if you only look at mitigation strategies that take into account greenhouse gases, then you're really not going to see that effect until a few decades from now, where if you introduce black carbon mitigation strategies, you'll see more of those short-term effects.
Yeah. Now let's just expand this a little bit, and then we're going to get to Michelle as far as permafrost. Well, what are the sources of this black carbon or black soot, as it's really called?
So there's a lot of different sources. Mostly in the United States, it comes from energy generation. I mean, 80% of our energy sources are some sort of combustion process. In other parts of the world,
some type of fossil fuel source.
Fossil fuels, also biomass burning if you're in other parts of the world.
Okay. Permafrost. What is permafrost, and why is it critical that we know about that, just like the black carbon, the black soot?
Right, so permafrost is classified as ground that's frozen all year round, and so it's actually considered a carbon sink as well because it has carbon-rich soils that comprise it. However, as these global temperatures continue to increase as a result of climate change, that permafrost is at risk of thawing. So that previously captured carbon material can now be decomposed and transformed in part to carbon dioxide and methane, which, as Aaron pointed out, are two key greenhouse gases. And since permafrost makes up 1/4 of the Earth's entire surface, it also contains twice the amount, of carbon than the atmosphere already does. So it has the potential to turn into a significant greenhouse gas source and further perpetuate climate change.
Well, if you look at what's going on in, say, Alaska for the United States up towards the Arctic Circle, and then, of course, what's going across Siberia and Russia, there's tremendous change as far as permafrost is concerned, where buildings and roads are starting to collapse or even disappear in some of these areas. So looking at it long term, we were talking about that with Aaron as far as the black soot, the black carbon. So what is the long-term implications as far as this melting of the permafrost?
Well, there's a lot of impacts that you can have from melting permafrost. A lot of them directly to us are infrastructure changes, like you said. Ground can collapse, which people have built their homes on, have built their towns on. So our group specifically is going to go as part of a large collaboration with the University of Alaska Fairbanks, as well as NASA Goddard Space Flight Center, to study how permafrost melting actually affects the global climate, so how much carbon dioxide and methane is being released. And so we can kind of characterize and even predict how permafrost melt will impact the global climate.
Well, it sounds like it's something we definitely need to be studying and know much more about. And it's the same thing with what you're doing, Aaron, as far as this black soot. What is the achievement rewards for college scientists, the ARCS Foundation, and how has that been a help to you, and how has that support you in what you're doing?
So as Jean and Lynn kind of talked about already, ARCS is a foundation comprised of all women volunteers that supports graduate and undergraduate scientists in their science and engineering goals. And so I was lucky enough to be a 2014-2015 ARCS Scholar for the Metropolitan Washington chapter. And so ARCS paid for my tuition for that school year, and then that's enabled me to present my research in a number of different venues. I went to Berlin and San Francisco for international conferences, and then I was also, I'm leaving next week to go and present in Cincinnati. Additionally, my year as an ARCS Scholar is ending, but Michelle was actually lucky enough to get chosen to be an ARCS Scholar for next year. And so ARCS is going to continue to support our lab's research goals in our permafrost studies in Alaska.
Oh, that's fantastic. And you were talking about Jean Bernick, who was the immediate past national president of the Advancement Rewards for College Scientists, and also Lynn Dillon, who is the president of the Metropolitan Washington chapter of the ARCS. So thank you for sharing about them. Looking at, if we can go back to that slide that we just had up there with the laser analytics, why don't you tell us a little bit about what is laser analytics and why is that important both in the black soot and then also what's happening with Michelle as far as the permafrost is concerned?
So what I do with black carbon research is it's really important to understand the optical properties of soot in order to effectively determine how it impacts the environment in terms of its radiative forcing. And so what I specifically do is look at visible and infrared light and the scattering and extinction that goes along with that through flame systems. And through that we're able to study the soot formation mechanism and measure optical properties throughout the flames, specifically where these particles are being formed. And from that we get size, structure, optical properties, and chemical composition.
Very important. So all this is very complex, Michelle, as you know. And how do you communicate this to the greater public so they understand the importance of this and even the terms we're talking about? We defined our terms as far as the black soot, the permafrost. Many people have no idea that such things even exist. So how do you communicate that?
Well, in addition to what Aaron mentioned, we attend conferences and present posters and technical talks. We've actually started a project that's actually geared towards community outreach, and we call that the Capital Climate Initiative. And the goal of that is to build low-cost carbon dioxide sensors and distribute them to the DC public school system. And those costs will be about $400 per sensor compared to the unit we're taking to Alaska, which is on the order of tens of thousands.
My goodness.
Yes, and so we have a proposal in to hopefully get funding for 50 of these sensors that will be distributed throughout the school system, and students will be able to access data on an open access webpage. They'll be able to view real-time changes in concentrations at their school as well as across the city. And then we'll be able to see, for us as scientists, we would like to see that map of urban concentrations, but we also get the students to have a very unique and hands-on climate science learning experience.
Now, looking at that, you're getting the schools involved, so that'd be the teachers as well as probably some of the administrators, but definitely the faculty members.
Right.
Why do you think that's important, and what is the long-term implications of starting at this low level, probably elementary, middle, and high school, as far as the long-term impacts as far as climate change is concerned?
Right. Well, the more we know, the better we are to tackle the problem, and it's better to start early so that students get kind of exposed to what is climate science, what are all these changes that are occurring, and how does that impact the planet. Because if they don't have early exposure, it's hard for them to kind of understand and communicate it in their future work.
Now, looking at what you're doing, Aaron, I know that we're just about running out of time, but why do you think it's really important that you be involved, you being the females that are involved across all these high-ranking universities in the United States, and the implications for overseas? And why do you think that's important, and what do you see your contribution to the future as far as climate change?
Well, I think it's, studying climate change in general is just a very important issue. It's going to be something that defines, our generation. And being a woman scientist, I think it's just important that you focus on these issues.
And it's really exciting.
It
right?
is really exciting.
Michelle, same question for you. What do you see as the long-term implications for yourself being involved in this kind of research, but also involving the next generations?
Well, I've had a great experience being able to work in research as well as academia, and I know that I will continue to want to be involved in outreach programs so that students of younger generations will be able to better understand climate science.
Well, it's really fantastic, and congratulations on the work that you're doing at the George Washington University in Washington, D.C. This is Aaron Atkins sitting right beside me, Michelle Bailey, and they are arts scholars, graduate students in chemistry of the Miller Research Group, and thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet. You ladies did fantastic. Good job.
Husbands. Too many women are pressured into having unprotected sex. Half of the people in the world living with AIDS are women. It doesn't have to be this way. Together, we can change this reality. Let's strive for a world free of violence.
At Volunteers of America, we don't just give kids a way to stay off the streets. We give them the tools they need to reach their full potential. We don't just help the elderly receive needed care. We help them live life to the fullest. We don't just provide food for homeless individuals and families. We provide job training and placement so they can buy groceries. Volunteers of America is a national organization that for over 100 years has provided programs and services that allow people to overcome their challenges to become vital members of their community. At Volunteers of America, we don't just help people, we help people help themselves. Find out how you can support the programs that are working in your community. Contact Volunteers of America today. Call 1-800-899-0089.
Drivers face all kinds of distractions.
Guys, stop playing now. 127 consecutive.
Before your wireless phone becomes one of them, stop. Drive safely. Keep your phone in easy reach and dial sensibly. In bad weather or traffic, call later and use a hands-free device. Remember, with wireless, safety is your call.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. and the United States as we're looking around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technology, services, and the products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we head to 2050 and we add another 2 billion people to the planet, how are we going to be able to take care of them and at the same time to either reverse or at least arrest the impacts of climate change? And we have someone coming in from the Georgia Institute of Technology, known as Georgia Tech, the School of Earth and Atmospheric Sciences, and also a National Science Foundation graduate fellow. This is Dr. Chastity Aiken, and she is a ARCS Global Impact Scholar. And we'll be talking about that. And sitting right beside me is Lynn R. Dillon. She is the president of the Metropolitan Washington chapter of the Achievement Rewards for College Scientists. What a long name you have there.
It is. It is.
And I'm glad you're getting paid for the length of the name and everything that you do. But this is the ARCS Foundation, and they're absolutely fantastic work. So Chastity, you're coming in by telephone, I believe?
That's correct.
Okay, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Thank you.
And Lynn, thank you for being with us as well. So anyway, Chastity, tell us a little bit about your work that's going on at the Georgia Institute of Technology. It's also known as Georgia Tech, and your School of Earth and Atmospheric Sciences there in Atlanta, Georgia.
Well, we're a school in the College of Sciences, and we have about 130 faculty, students and research scientists that conduct innovative research ranging from earthquakes and volcanoes to climate, oceanography, and even life on Mars. My own research is focused on earthquakes.
You were saying that I think we have one of our earlier guests on here. We need to get your photograph up there, Chastity, so we'll get the engineers to fix that. Tell us a little bit about what is triggering and why are triggering studies so important?
Well, seismic activity, like an earthquake, occurs naturally on active fault systems due to stressing between tectonic plates that move on Earth's surface. And triggering is a process that occurs ahead of schedule due to stress being added to a fault. And these types of studies are important for a few reasons. They tell us how and what seismic activity is occurring on a fault, and they tell us a little bit about the state of stress prior to the fault being triggered, and they also help us study naturally occurring seismic activity on that fault.
I tell you, that's really critically important. As you know, in the last decade, the number of Category 6 to 8 earthquakes has gone up dramatically, and so it's something that we certainly need to know much more about. Lynn, it's over to you. Your next question.
Certainly my pleasure. Thank you. Chastity, I was wondering if you could give us a little bit more information on how triggering happens.
Well, in my own research, I've examined triggering that occurs due to passing seismic waves of these larger earthquakes. When large earthquakes occur, like the Japan earthquake a few years ago, the earthquake generates seismic waves that travel all over the Earth, and these seismic waves induce stress changes as they pass through the Earth. And sometimes these are so small that we can't physically feel them, but they do trigger seismic activity elsewhere.
Now, looking at earthquakes and the prediction of these, as we know of the 300 megacities, which is 10 million or more cities growing around the globe, about 195 of those are actually sitting on earthquake faults that could trigger, Category 6 to 8 earthquakes. And so when you look at it, are we able to actually predict these types of earthquakes? And if yes, how can we do it? If no, why not? And then why do we really need to be able to predict when there actually are going to be earthquakes?
Well, to date, earthquakes are not predictable, but we can kind of give an idea of how big and where they might occur. The timing is the most difficult part of predicting earthquakes. At the moment, we can only forecast an earthquake and say with some amount of certainty how much shaking you might expect and when in a certain area. But my research has been focused on identifying areas where we see triggered activity and then trying to go back and understand how that is related to larger earthquakes.
I'm going to follow on this, looking at the earthquakes that's happened, say, in the last couple of years, I know that there seems to be some consensus that you're getting closer to be able to predict or at least figure out the harmonics as far as what's going on to trigger these earthquakes. What is your research showing?
My research is showing that generally large earthquakes with really long period seismic waves are capable of triggering these events, and in general about 1 kilopascal of stress is needed to trigger, and these earthquakes are generally smaller, less than magnitude 5. But 1 kilopascal of stress is like rubbing your fingers together. It's really, really small.
And that's something like that. It may actually trigger an earthquake, that small an impact?
That's true.
Oh my gosh.
True.
That's
We've seen that in California, actually.
Yeah. Now, is there any prognosis as far as why the increase as far as these category 6 through 8 earthquakes? What's the theory of that, or what are you actually observing?
Well, there's been a lot of studies recently on the number of large earthquakes that we've seen recently, and it's not really well understood if there's some kind of clustering going on or if we're experiencing more earthquakes or why. I think we need to actually have a longer history of earthquakes going on before we can say for certainty whether or not there's an increase in earthquake activity.
Well, if you look at at least the research that's come out of NOAA and some of the other federal agencies, if you look from 1900 to 2000, was very consistent. And every decade you would have a slight bump as far as again, these catastrophic earthquakes. You hit 2000 until 2010 was the last research I could find. It was almost a 300% increase as far as the number of such earthquakes. So is there anything that you've been able to find that may be causing this, and what is the long-term impact again on these megacities that are being built over these earthquake faults?
Well, I think it might be a little bit biased because we didn't really have seismic networks until the middle of the 20th century. And so before that, it was just historical records. But most of my research is actually focused on, when I identify the triggering, it's actually related to smaller earthquakes. But we use that to go back and study the activity naturally occurring to see how that relates to these larger earthquakes.
I see. Okay. Well, Lynn has the next question, and I'll follow on with another question for you about this particular topic, because what you're studying is of great interest as far as Emerald Planet is concerned, because when you have 195 of the 300 cities situated on this, we need to be well prepared, and probably in most cases, like we saw in Haiti, in Kathmandu, and Nepal, and many other places, the world's really not prepared for this catastrophic loss of not only life, but also the infrastructure that's there. So your studies are critically important to the future of the planet.
Picking up from that, Chastity, let me just ask the question. Having been an ARCS scholar, it would be great to have you just reiterate what the ARCS Foundation stands for, but more importantly, how that funding has been valuable for you in looking at the next career steps.
Certainly. ARCS stands for Achievement Rewards for College Scientists, and it has given me the means to begin developing an international collaboration. Just last year, I was able to travel to Japan and conduct an internship with the University of Tokyo, where I was studying triggering in Japan. And I would just say that, that internship that was just started by the ARCS Foundation has provided me with multiple benefits. And the best of that is that because I did that internship last year, this year I will be starting a short-term postdoctoral fellowship at the Earthquake Research Institute at the University of Tokyo, and I'll be starting that in about 2 months. So.
Yeah, well, the first night that I stayed in Japan when I was living there and working, we actually had an earthquake about 2 o'clock in the morning, and that was the first time I ever experienced one. And it was my very first evening there. Of course, we had many after that while I was living in Japan, but it was an incredible sensation, Lynn, to be there, and all of a sudden your whole house just, you know, levitates right off the ground. It shakes and it sits right back down, fortunately, on the foundation that was there. How do you communicate the research that you're doing, Chastity, to the greater public so they understand about earthquakes and this triggering concept that you're studying?
That's a good question. I guess this is one of the few ways I've done it, just talking through this organization.
Well, you're talking about you're doing your internship in Japan, so there's many ways that you're reaching out, correct?
Right, right. I mean, it's very important to form these international collaborations with people because that's how we grow. That's how we learn and innovate, and we resolve these problems faster. But also, we've kind of talked a little bit about earthquake triggering locally in Atlanta through the Atlanta Science Festival. It's a festival that goes on every year. And it's 1 week long, and we invite people to come to our university to learn about what kind of research that we're doing there.
Well, I tell you, you're at Georgia Tech, and that really is an outstanding world-class university, so you're very fortunate to be there. Looking at the experiences, Lynn was asking about your experience with ARCS. What's the experience with the university? How do you think that's really preparing you for your long career in this whole area of earthquakes and the impact on society?
Well, you know, being a scientist, it's very important that when you're starting out in graduate school that you're able to form collaborations with people and go to conferences and go do internships, because the important thing is if you're not out there talking about your research and sharing it with people or getting feedback on it, then it's really hard to move forward in your career. And so it's very important to have those opportunities, and ARCS Foundation has provided that for me.
That's fantastic. In about 10 seconds, how do you think this has all benefited you personally, not just professionally, but personally?
Well, financially speaking, you know, as a graduate student, we get some partial tuition coverage, but we have to pay our fees, and fees have gone up recently in the last couple of years in Georgia, and so the ARCS Foundation has also helped me pay for some of that.
That's fantastic. Chastity Aiken, thank you very much for being with us. That's great, the Emerald Planet.
This is firstgov.gov, where we're obsessed with getting you government information.
Brand new student loan applications on the site, baby. This calls for a celebration. Where's your uncle?
So in the end, it was either take the astronaut gig or come work here. What can I say? Duty called.
Dude, that's my cop.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure that's Sam's cop.
Oh, sorry?
Yeah. No. Sam's? No.
Just log on or email us and get what you need.
C, change of address form. That's how it's done.
D, driver's license renewal.
E, emailing Social Security information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice, we'll allow it. All right,
What are those? Government surplus cars for auction.
You posted those online last time.
No, you did.
I'm posting them online this time.
For all your government information, firstgov.gov.
Oh, what have we got here? Sometimes you feel tired. You can't seem to lose those extra pounds off your midsection. And your joints hurt when you take the stairs? Well, you're getting older. But I'm happy to say that there's some simple things we can do to keep you happy and healthy for years to come. We can also lower your risk for some serious diseases the older population is often subject to. Proper nutrition is more important than ever. Your body has changed, you know. Not as many treats. A basic exercise plan, lots of walks and fresh air, and most importantly, come and see me for twice-yearly checkups to help ensure the best possible quality of life. Now, how does that sound? Good boy.
Improve the quality of life for your elderly pet. Schedule twice yearly checkups that include preventive care and regular lab work. A message from the veterinary members of the American Animal Hospital Association.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet. I'm Dr. Sam Hancock, the director and host for the Emerald Planet TV and also the president, executive director for Emerald Planet International Foundation. We come to you on a week-to-week basis talking about the best of technologies all around the globe in over 144 different nations. And we're doing this so that we can actually link all the technology, the products, and the services that are being developed and evolved to meet the needs of a planet that will soon have 9 billion souls by 2050. And so we're looking at some of the outstanding personalities and researchers that are actually working towards this. And we have one who's coming in with a very long title. And how you doing, Jean? This is Dr. Jean M. Van Briesen. She's also a professional engineer, PE. Duquesne Light Company, Professor of Civil and Environmental Engineering and Director of the Center for Water Quality and Urban Environmental Systems. It's called WaterQuest, and at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And welcome to be with us. And sitting right beside me is Lynn Ardellen. She is the president of the Metropolitan Washington chapter of what's called the Advancement Rewards for College Scientists, ARCS. As an acronym, foundation, and she's sitting here, and as you can see, Jean's coming to us by Skype. So welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Thank you.
I tell you, that's a long title that you have there. That's very impressive, and understand your resume is equally or longer than the title. So, and you're really at an outstanding university there in Pittsburgh. So welcome to the Emerald Planet. Share a little bit about your Center for Water Quality and Urban Environmental Systems. It's WaterQuest.
WaterQuest,
yeah, at Carnegie Mellon University.
We launched WaterQuest about a decade ago, and it focuses on all of the components of engineering in our water systems that make it possible for us to have clean water within our increasingly complex and large cities. Pittsburgh's a great example of that. We're an old industrial city. We built the infrastructure over the last couple of hundred years, and it's aging and needs to be replaced. And so we focus within the center on engineering a sustainable water future.
Well, looking at your focus on urban water, why urban water when isn't water everywhere needed to be focused upon and have equal research and development?
It is. Water is everywhere. It moves around the planet and it matters everywhere it is. It's really the same water everywhere. The water that rained over Pittsburgh or Washington, D.C. today evaporated from a river or was taken up by plants and released into the air somewhere else yesterday. So the water just moves around the planet. We focus on urban water because cities are where the people are. And as an engineer, it's my job not so much to study the world the way I might if I were a scientist, but to make things that make the world better for people. So engineering a better city, more resilient, more sustainable through improving its water systems. We do that in the urban area because that's where the people are.
Yeah, it's very interesting. They're saying by 2050 that roughly 80% of the world's population will be living in urban areas. But actually in the United States, it's already predicted that we're already at 80%.
We are.
And if you look at a country like Brazil, you think wide open spaces like the United States, 87% of the people live in urban areas. And so your focus on urban water really is very critical to the population base, and I think that's actually what you were sharing with us. Jean, as you know, we have Lynn sitting right beside me, and she's going to ask you the next question.
Good evening, Jean. As we look at the different types of water, drinking, storm, and wastewater, was curious which you focus on in your research, and of those, is there one that is more important than the others, and if so, why?
That's a great question. You might guess from my last answer that I consider them all linked together. They're all the same water. If you remember the water cycle you would have learned about in elementary school with the water moving around from the mountains into the streams and down into the ocean, that's a great picture of the way water used to move around. And then there were people. And what people did was build engineered systems into that whole water cycle. And so storm water becomes river water, and river water becomes drinking water, and drinking water becomes wastewater, and wastewater goes back into river water. And so all of those engineered systems link together those different types of water. I don't study one kind of water, I study all of those waters and how they interact with each other, and how we can engineer it so that they mix when we want them to, and they don't mix when we don't want them to.
Yeah, looking at, of course, when you talk about these three general types as far as the drinking, storm, and wastewater, I mean, this is a very complex system, and it's becoming more complex with more urbanization and more, you know, non-penetrable surfaces, so there's more runoff coming from cities. What kinds of things are you looking at specifically as far as maybe storm and wastewater that really will have long-term impact on the quality and the amount of the drinking water that we're going to have in urban areas?
Sure, we look a lot at how different water choices we make upstream in watersheds, how they affect what the quality of the water we'll have available will be for people for drinking. So in stormwater, we're seeing a lot more interest in green infrastructure and in building systems that treat the stormwater more like a resource to be kept within the city, rather than the old model, which was just sort of get it out of the city as quickly as you could. In wastewater, we're seeing more interest in the possibility that the resources that are in our waste might be a resource, and we should extract them and reuse them, get some of those nutrients back and use them again.
Yeah, I know that here Emerald Planet's working in some of the more at-risk wards, Ward 8 and Ward 7, in areas that are very old infrastructure, and at the same time extreme runoff going in and really destroying the streams and the rivers that are going into the Chesapeake Bay, which ends up in the Atlantic Ocean. So the thing that you're doing is very important. Gene, looking at the new uses of water, you know, there's a big debate on hydraulic fracturing, or called fracking. And so what is happening as actually that water is going in to produce new sources of energy, natural gas and oil, and how does the use of water for generating the energy sources impact on humans and the environment?
Sure, lots of water is used in the energy industry. It's hard to think of the energy industry as a whole without water. We use water in the early phases, that's what you're talking about, when we're extracting the fossil fuel through either hydraulic fracturing, or we use water in coal mining. Most of the extraction technologies, we use water. And then on the other end, when the fuel gets to a plant where we're going to burn it for generating electricity, we use a significant amount of water there to cool those plant systems. So energy, the sector of energy, is a huge water user. It's not, of course, the only big water user. Lots of our industries are significant water users. Agriculture comes immediately to mind as a big user of water, both for the production of the food and in a lot of the downstream processing activities. What effect these uses have on people and the environment depends a lot on where you do them. So in areas where there's a lot of water, there isn't as much controversy about using water for lots of different sources and lots of different activities. But where water is more limited, then people begin to get concerned about new uses of water because there are so many existing straws in the water source, so many different things we're already doing with them. In my own work, I don't focus as much on the water that's used for fracking. I focus on the water that comes back in the hydraulic fracturing activity. That water comes up very salty, and that can be a real challenge to treat and to manage. So both the quantity aspects and the quality aspects are important for water engineers.
Well, looking at the food production that you were mentioning a little earlier, we'll just expand on this topic if you don't mind, as far as cattle versus plant-based diets. This is something that really is a I guess you could say it's a debate, but it's really more of an open discussion because many of us were raised on beef and other sources of animal protein. Gradually over the years have been switching to more plant-based proteins and food sources. So is there anything that you're doing in your research that looks at this, and then of course the impact on water quality, the impact on the waste stream, and maybe even the runoff during storms as far as the use of fertilizers and chemicals, and how that impacts the overall quality of air, soil, and water on the environment?
So within my own work, we aren't doing work on agricultural questions, but I talked a little bit in the last answer about the water and energy connections. And there's a major connection between water and energy and food production. Not only do you need water to produce both plant-based and animal-based foods, but you need a lot of energy, usually in the form of the energy we use to generate fertilizer for those activities. So there are linkages between all the choices we make on water, the choices we make on where we get our energy, and the choices on how we produce our food. And those choices are going to become increasingly constrained, again, because of how water is distributed on the planet and because of how people are choosing to be distributed on the planet. There are more challenges to all of those intersections.
And then let me add the next drought. As you know, in California, the United States, but also China, India, Brazil, Australia, all these mega economies that are actually producing the foodstuffs for the globe in many cases are now being challenged by drought. So how does that factor into what you're doing as far as your urban water?
Sure, drought's a significant challenge, in part, again, because of how water is distributed and then how people are distributed. Water availability in different places on the planet is very different. Geography and geology and the history of human settlement affect the water resources in a given area. In my hometown here in Pittsburgh, we have abundant water all year long, partly because of rainfall and partly because of infrastructure built years and years ago in our dams and reservoirs. Other areas have water for only limited time periods of the year. They need much more intense engineering to provide that water over a long time frame. And then water has temporal cycles. It changes over time. You can have dry years and wet years, but you can also have
about 20
dry
seconds left to finish this. Go ahead.
So it really varies quite a bit on location. We can engineer some solutions, we can build lots of reservoirs, but we also need to be thinking about engineering ourselves and the choices we make about water.
Quick statement, what do you see for the future of WaterQuest?
The future of WaterQuest is engaging more deeply with our local community on water. We have a new initiative looking at green infrastructure in the city, and we're working with the city really to transition to a resilient and sustainable future.
This is Gene M. Beeson and at Carnegie Mellon University. Thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.
Thank you.